Hey everyone, Dockwell here, and today I'm going to be showing you the definitive Zeus build for this patch because, a lot of people, if you go on Dota 2 Pro Tracker and you check what they're building and how they're playing the hero, it's pretty much all right-click, or it's a majority right-click. And then if you go to most of the guides, they're showing you right-click Zeus build. And don't get me wrong, that is good. It's what a lot of the high MMR players are playing. That's kind of a lot of what the hero is very good at right now. But if you do notice in what most pro players are building, they might just be building Manta. Otherwise, they're pretty much going for traditional Zeus items. And so this like all in for the right click build, that's probably not the greatest thing to do, especially if you're watching this video at your MMR. Let's be honest, if you're going all in for that right click, chances are you are not going to be good enough to position yourself perfectly, but also your team really isn't going to be good enough to cast their spells correctly, go in at the right time, and just allow you to actually do what you need to do as a Zeus right-clicking and not just get instantly killed. And so today I'm going to be showing you the perfect build, kind of that happy medium of how to actually build this hero in this patch. And so the first thing we're going to take a look at is the item build. We're going to be playing Mid Zeus, obviously, because hopefully you're not going right-click build in support roles or any other kinds of roles. I mean, maybe you could play this hero carry or something like that, but this hero is just a mid hero. So we're going to be going for that mid item build to start items, which is going to be, your Tango, your Fairy Fire, 3 branches, and then you can round it off with an Observer Ward. If your supports don't buy them, you're just going to want an Observer Ward in the mid lane in almost every single game. So you can place it or your support can place it. And then we have, obviously, our Tangos just for regen. We have 3 branches, which just give us a little bit of extra stats, extra tankiness, and then the Fairy Fire to give us some extra damage along with these branches. And you actually have a significant amount of right-click damage level 1 with these items. So yeah, this hero's right-click isn't really the focus of the hero, but you can do significant damage harassing. You can actually secure last hits pretty well because there are some heroes that just have absolutely awful right click, especially in the mid lane. So in the past, maybe 5+ years ago, Zeus was a terrible right clicker, just in not only in terms of it didn't have that shard that we're going to be talking about, but it also just was not able to use the right click to secure last hits in lane or harass. But that is not how the current Zeus operates. He's actually kind of a threat when right clicking. It can feel pretty bad to get right clicked by a Zeus a ton, especially when he's spamming out spells. So just know that you can be right clicking for last hits and not having to waste mana and that kind of stuff, especially when you go these item builds. And then these items allow you to have enough gold left over to get a very, very quick bottle early on after the first couple waves. And that's what you're going to want to do because you're going to want to have that bottle before 2 minutes comes up, which is extremely important to get that rune, to get, as much mana as you can, and to maximize that so you can get as much harass damage, secure as many last hits, all that kind of stuff. And that's the first item we're going to be going for, is that bottle. And then the next item is probably going to be Ring of Basilius, just because this gives you even more mana regen, because obviously this is a mana-starved hero. You're constantly going to be using mana and spells in the lane for everything you want to do, and so because of that, this just helps a little more. The only thing I would consider to not get this next or second is I might get Magic Wand next if I'm against a hero that, spams a ton of spells in lane. That might be a little bit more efficient, but either way, you're going to be getting this and then this at some point before you round it all out with the early game items with an Arcane Boots. And then this should be enough, as long as you're not just like, farming jungle stacks or anything like that. If you're just, pushing waves, securing runes, going to gank, having enough mana for your ultimate, that kind of stuff, the mana boots in the bottle should be enough for you to stay on the map for a pretty decent amount of time and not have to go back to base all that often. So this is very, very good. Then transitioning out of the early game, those starting items, and then into those very, very early items in the lane, once you get into that mid-game timing, you're going to want to get Phylactery no matter what. This hero, whether it goes right-click build or just pure spell damage, you're going to get this item just because it is so much value. It just does everything you want for this hero because you're constantly spamming spells. You're getting that slow. You're getting that extra damage. It's just very, very good for the hero. And obviously, if you do go for that right-click build, then you can later upgrade it into Conda, but it's not maybe as good as some other heroes just because you're not going to be doing that, going all in on that. And there's so many other items we can get, and honestly, the spell damage items are going to be better, and that's what I'm going to be showing you now, because next I would just go straight for Kaya. So let's just sell some of these items. So this is going to be good because it just amps up everything you want. Kai is very good. And then honestly, next I would go for Ags. And this is because I'm going in for that magic damage. And the earlier you can get these, buffs to your magic damage, the better it's going to be for you because, once you get this early Ags, if you get it, a little after 20 minutes, maybe you're having an insane game, you get it before 20 minutes, which is probably not going to happen with these 3, but still, it's just going to be an insane boost power spike where you can just have insane team fights, you just press Alt and you even press your Nimbus from across the map when you're split pushing or anything like that, and then join up with your team later. Like, there's all different kinds of options, or you can be in the back of the fight like you normally would. Just getting all these items earlier is better. And then from there, that's when you can kind of decide, okay, what do I want to do from here? Because the typical like spell damage build, you could just go straight into Kaya and Sange. You could go into an Aether Lens that builds eventually into an Ethereal Blade. You could even go straight up for a Refresher before you even finish any of these things, because you just want a second Alt and the second Nimbus. That's very, very good as well. But you're going to be getting some of this version of these things depending on the game. And honestly, you might even want to go for this Aether Lens before you get Kaya, or before you even get the Ag Scepter sometimes, because maybe it is just one of those games where you desperately need this cast range, because otherwise you're just going to get jumped on. You need to have more survivability, because obviously you have your jump, but you need that survivability, that cast range, that ability to get your spells off in the game, in fights, because you're not doing it otherwise. You're having trouble doing it so far in the game. So there's all those little considerations to go for. But for the most part, I would be going this spell build. But then the other thing you can be doing is let's just sell this here for a second. You can go Kaya and then actually go into Yasha and Kaya, so that you can have this, because you're going to be transitioning into getting your shard and then getting a Manta by disassembling this, unlocking this, and then going into that Manta. And this honestly helps you pretty much just split push. That's mainly what you're going to want to do with this hero. Like, if you're in a losing game, you feel like you really need to push these lanes out, you feel like you need a dispel for silences for whatever reason, because obviously you have this jump, which is good, but you just can't get it off because there's a Skywrath mage or someone has an Orchid or something like that. So this really helps. But just because you go for the shard and the Manta doesn't mean you have to go all in for the right-click build. You can go back for a Kaya Sange. You can go back and complete the Ags if you didn't already. Go back for the Ethereal Blade. Go back for the Octarine or the Refresher, all that kind of stuff. That's completely an option, and that's what I would do in most games. So your late game items are probably going to look, something a little bit more along the lines of this. That's what I would do. Like, you consume the Ags and you have this. That's what I would rather have than just going straight right click. But if you do want to go right click, it is a possibility. You can go for your Hurricane Pike, which is really good if you need more survivability. You can go for Parasma, which is not as good because it did get nerfed, so I'd probably skip this item over some other ones, because then you can obviously complete your Kondo, which is very good, and go more for a Moon Shard, just because that's going to be allowing you to spam out more of those lightning hands from your shard, which is really good. So that's kind of the build that I would go instead. Maybe something like this would be a little bit better, because you're obviously going to have that Kaya regardless almost every time. So you're going to want to finish the Kaya Sange almost every single game. And so then eventually, you could have all this, go for the Refresher, something like that. Maybe you have this instead of the Refresher there, that kind of thing. And so this would be more of what your build looks like later. And then you can obviously round that off with the Boots of Travel if you want to, super late game, because you don't really need the mana anymore. You have insane sustain. So that's kind of the two ways to play the hero, the two main item builds, whether you're going right click or you're going magic damage. And honestly, the best in the middle version, like I said, is to go for that Manta style and the shard, but only stop there and don't go all in for the right click. Kind of build that happy medium, which is really good. And then for the last situational items, if you really need like a Yules and a Wind Waker, you can go for that, obviously. If you really need extra lockdown for some reason, because you just have no stones, no lockdown on your team, Scythe of Ice is definitely an option. Blink is an option. Even Overwhelming Blink you can go for. This is pretty much not something you're going to be getting very often at all, but it is a possibility. If you're tanky, you just need to have more mobility. Aeon Disc, if you're just against some kind of insane like Black Hole or Chronosphere and they're just jumping you constantly, it can be very good for that. BKB is kind of to round out the right-click build if you are going for this full right-click build like we see here, but you just need this BKB to man up, stand your ground, and fight. And then more Dagon for magic damage, and even Lincoln's as like a BKB replacement or something if you need some more defensive items or something like that for a Hex or for a Silence or whatever, even though you have some of these other options. That Lincoln's is just one of those to round that out and gives you that option of going that. So that is the item build for Zeus in this patch, and like I said, the happy medium is probably the best. And then we can go into the skill build, which is actually pretty simple. Let me just level up here. So first, level 1, we're going to be taking Arc Lightning pretty much every single time. I mean, there's almost no reason you would go anything else. The only other thing that would allow you or make you go for another skill is Heavenly Jump. If you were like contesting the rune and you were about to give First Blood for some reason, and then you just needed to skill this to get away, or maybe you needed to skill it to like slow somebody, get on top of them, that is a possibility. But regardless, you're probably going to be leveling it second anyway, because it's very valuable in the lane to get aggressive or to be defensive, either one. So you're going to be wanting to get these first. I mean, it's possible to get Lightning Bolt third, but you're probably not going to want to do that. And then you just weren't going to want to get another level in Arc Lightning, then finally go back for the Lightning Bolt. This helps to harass, spam, you know, maybe D-ward or something like that. Then you're going to max out Arc Lightning, get your ult whenever you can, get that last point in Arc Lightning, and then max out your Lightning Bolt here so that your basic, you know, abilities are going to be maxing out Q first, then maxing out W, and maxing out E last, getting your ultimate whenever you can. And the only thing I would say is you might want to max out Arc Lightning before you even get your level 10 talent, because obviously level 10, you can still max this out without actually getting this level 10 talent, or actually max out Lightning Bolt rather. So you might want to just do that to get more spell damage here, because you're not going to be getting Heavenly Jump cooldown. That's not that good usually. You just want to get this extra health. Usually gets you pretty tanky. And then you're going to be going for all the right hand side skills. Like these Heavenly Jump talents, just not that great. It's just better to have this movement speed after the jump overall. And then also this Arc Lightning damage is just going to be very, very good, obviously, because you're spamming this a ton in lane. I mean, in game, in general, in fights. I mean, yes, you can get a lot of damage from Lightning Bolt, but this is the spell you're going to be using the most in fights. It's actually how you get most of your damage, and so you're going to be clicking that. And the mini stun's fine, but it's really not that good. Half a second. And this AoE Lightning Bolt is then extremely, extremely powerful. You know, Thunder God's Wrath flat damage, that's kind of, it's like a little bit whatever. AoE Lightning Bolt is just going to be way better for, you know, if people are grouped up, you're just going to be doing more damage overall. And obviously clearing through creep waves and all those kinds of things. Split pushing late game, that kind of stuff. So that is the talent tree, and then obviously in the next levels you get the attributes, and then you fill out the rest of the talent tree. So those are the talents, that's the item build, and that is the build for Zeus in this patch. Again, like I said, this hero is very strong, very powerful. People are picking it a ton, and I think the best way to do it is to not go all in for that right click, but to actually just go middle of the road, get the Manta and the Shard if you need to, if you really want to split push, if you need that extra dispel. Otherwise, go in for that magic damage to honestly own the game, because the earlier you get that Ags, the earlier you get those items that amp up your magic damage, the better you're going to be, the more you can snowball the game, the more impact you're going to have in fights. If you just try to sit back, farm, split push, that kind of stuff, you're just going to delay your timings, and it's not going to be as powerful. So that is my Zeus build for this patch. If you like the video, like, comment, subscribe, all those kinds of things. As always, guys, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.